Have you ever sat quietly in your favorite chair, tea in hand, and thought to yourself, I'm alone, but I don't feel lonely? Or maybe you've had the opposite moment. The house is quiet, the phone doesn't ring, and suddenly it hits you like a wave. Is this what life looks like now? If you're over 70, chances are you've felt both of those things. That mix of peace and ache. That tug between wanting company and deeply craving calm. Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Being alone after 70 isn't something to fear. It can actually be one of the greatest gifts of your life. In this video, we're going to explore why embracing solitude, not isolation, not loneliness, but real, nourishing solitude, can lead to a happier, healthier, and even more meaningful life in your 70s and beyond. And no, this isn't about cutting people out or living like a monk. It's about reconnecting with yourself, possibly for the first time in decades. So let's start here. Have you noticed how much noise fills our lives? From news headlines to other people's opinions, to the non-stop chatter of social media. After 70, there's a beautiful chance to turn down the volume. And when we do, something amazing happens. Our minds begin to breathe. This quiet gives space for our thoughts to settle and our hearts to speak. Many seniors say their anxiety lessens, their mood lifts, and they feel more centered when they spend intentional time alone. It's like clearing out a cluttered attic. Suddenly there's room to move, to think, to feel. Another reason solitude becomes so powerful after 70 is that it helps us reconnect with parts of ourselves we may have forgotten. Maybe you loved painting when you were younger, or gardening, or journaling your thoughts. But life, family, work, responsibilities pulled you in every direction. Solitude gives you permission to return to those passions without guilt, without deadlines, and without needing anyone else's approval. And here's something truly unexpected. Being comfortable with your own company often leads to better relationships. When you're not constantly looking to others to fill a void, your conversations become more genuine. You're more patient, more present, and more confident in who you are. You see, solitude isn't about pushing people away. It's about learning to stand strong in your own presence. And once you find peace there, everything else, the visits, the phone calls, the friendships, they become richer, more meaningful. Now that we've opened this door, let's keep walking through it. There's something freeing that happens when you no longer need constant distractions to feel okay. You start to notice the little things again, the way the light falls through your window in the morning, the sound of birds returning in spring, the feel of your own breath when the world is still. That's not just poetic talk. That's your nervous system calming down. That's your heart slowing, your stress lowering. And believe it or not, solitude plays a powerful role in protecting both your brain and your body. When we allow ourselves moments of quiet, our brains actually recharge. Studies show that older adults who regularly spend time alone in peaceful reflection, whether through meditation, prayer, or simply sitting in silence, experience improved memory and sharper cognitive function. It's like the mental clutter clears, making space for focus and clarity to return. And in a world where many fear losing their memory, isn't it encouraging to know that solitude can actually help us preserve it? But let's not forget the body. Solitude can bring real physical health benefits too. Think about it. When you're not overcommitted, rushing to meet others' expectations, or carrying emotional baggage from constant social pressure, your body has a chance to rest and heal. Blood pressure lowers, sleep improves, even digestion can become more regular. When the mind is at peace, the body tends to follow. And maybe most importantly, solitude allows you to hear your inner voice again. For years, maybe even decades, your life revolved around what others needed: children, a spouse, coworkers, extended family. Now, for perhaps the first time, you can ask yourself, what do I want? And the beautiful part is, you don't need anyone's permission to answer. Whether it's spending an hour a day in the garden, rereading the classics, or learning something completely new online, this is your time. And the quiet gives you space to dream again. Not like a young person chasing the world, but like a wise soul finally listening to the one voice that matters most, your own. Solitude also deepens our connection to something greater, whether that's nature, faith, creativity, or a quiet sense of purpose. Many people in their 70s describe this as a kind of spiritual renewal, not tied to any one religion, but to a feeling of peace, acceptance, and deep inner joy. It's in these quiet moments, a slow morning, an afternoon walk, a silent evening, where many rediscover what it means to feel truly alive. One of the most surprising things about spending more time alone after 70 is how it sharpens your sense of appreciation. When life slows down, you begin to see beauty in places you once rushed past. The way steam curls from your morning cup of coffee, the rhythm of rain tapping on the window, the comfort of your favorite blanket on a cool evening. These little joys, often overlooked when we're busy pleasing others or trying to keep up with the world, start to become treasures, and you begin to realize, this is enough. I am enough. Solitude helps you build a stronger emotional core. Without the noise of outside opinions or the pressure to fit in, you have space to feel your feelings without judgment. Maybe it's grief for someone you've lost. Maybe it's relief that a chapter of stress has ended. Or maybe it's quiet joy, the kind that doesn't need to be explained. The more comfortable you get sitting with your own thoughts, the more emotionally resilient you become. And in a world that often changes faster than we'd like, that inner stability is a real gift. Now let's talk about decision-making. After 70, there are still many choices to make about your health, your home, your relationships, and the clearer your mind is, the better those choices tend to be. Solitude allows you to hear your intuition, that quiet gut feeling that says, this is right for me, or this doesn't feel good. And the more you practice listening to that voice, the more confident and empowered you become. What's also remarkable is how solitude reduces the need for constant validation. When you're not measuring your worth by who calls, who visits, or who likes your posts online, you start to discover something deeper: self-respect. You realize that your value doesn't come from being useful to others or from staying busy. It comes from simply being who you are. Alive, present, worthy, and let's not forget creativity. So many people find their most inspired ideas in the quiet, whether it's writing, painting, rearranging a room, or just daydreaming. Solitude opens the door to imagination. It invites curiosity back into your life. You don't need to impress anyone. You just get to enjoy being you again. This chapter of life isn't about fading into the background. It's about finally stepping into the spotlight of your own story. No noise, no rush, just truth, peace, and quiet power. When we think about aging, many people worry about becoming invisible, as if the world stopped seeing you after a certain age. But solitude has a quiet way of reminding you that being seen starts with seeing yourself. Not the younger version, not the person you used to be for others, but the person you are right now. And when you finally slow down enough to really meet yourself again, you often find someone wiser, kinder, and more whole than you remembered. This self-recognition is more than just emotional comfort. It's a foundation for self-care. When you spend time alone, you start to notice what your body and spirit actually need. Maybe it's a slower morning routine. Maybe it's better meals, a short nap in the afternoon, or stretching your legs during sunset. You begin to tune in, and from that awareness comes action. Gentle, consistent care that builds real wellness day by day. Solitude also gives you the chance to reset your boundaries. For years, you may have said yes when you wanted to say no. You may have attended events out of obligation, or stayed quiet to keep the peace. But now, in this new season of life, you're allowed to choose peace over pressure. Alone time teaches you that saying no is not rejection, it's protection. It's saying yes to your time, your values, your energy. And it's a deeply respectful thing to do for yourself. Another gift of solitude is clarity in relationships. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, it's hard to know who truly uplifts you and who just drains your spirit. But in solitude, the fog clears. You begin to recognize which relationships bring warmth and which ones feel cold. You learn to let go of guilt, the kind that makes you hold on to people or patterns that no longer serve your peace. And you learn that love doesn't always mean constant closeness. Sometimes, love is choosing space. Sometimes, love is remembering yourself. And perhaps, most beautifully, solitude prepares you to enjoy company in a whole new way. When you're not dependent on others to feel whole, every visit, every conversation, every shared laugh becomes a gift, not a need, but a joy. You bring your full, content self into each moment, and that kind of presence is deeply felt by others. There's a quiet strength that grows inside you when you realize you don't need constant company to feel fulfilled. After 70, many people discover that peace doesn't come from having a full calendar. It comes from having a full heart. And solitude, when embraced with openness, gives your heart the space to breathe, to feel, and to heal. Think about how much of your life has been spent meeting expectations, raising a family, showing up for work, helping friends, managing responsibilities. All of it done with care, but often at the cost of your own rest. Now, for maybe the first time, you have permission to rest without guilt, to pause without explanation. Solitude isn't about doing nothing. It's about finally doing things that matter to you, even if they're quiet, slow, or simple. And here's something you might not expect. Solitude can actually deepen your connection to the world. When you're not constantly pulled into noise and distraction, you begin to notice life more clearly. You walk through the garden and see details you never noticed before. The veins in the leaves, the pattern of clouds, the tiny insects going about their day. These aren't small things. They're reminders that you're still part of something larger, something alive, something sacred. For many, solitude becomes a doorway to reflection. You begin to look back not with regret, but with understanding. You see the younger version of yourself with more compassion. You remember mistakes, yes, but also resilience, growth, and the quiet bravery it took to keep going. There's great power in remembering your own story. In solitude, you start to feel proud of it, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts. And through all this quiet reflection, a deep kind of wisdom begins to form. Not just knowledge, but a calm knowing. You realize that happiness doesn't come from chasing youth or clinging to the past. It comes from presence, from accepting where you are, who you are, and what this moment has to offer. There's no one-size-fits-all path to happiness after 70. But one thing is certain, the more time you give yourself to be still, the more clearly you'll hear what truly matters. Not what others say matters, what you know does. One of the greatest surprises about spending time alone is discovering just how much life is still left in you. Not the noisy kind of life, filled with rushing and noise, but a quiet, steady fire that says, I'm still here, I still matter. After 70, solitude becomes a mirror, showing you parts of yourself that were buried under decades of distraction. Your resilience, your curiosity, your sense of humor, even your dreams. Because yes, you can still have dreams. And in the quiet, when the expectations of others fade, those dreams often return. Maybe it's traveling somewhere you've never been, or learning something new, or simply living with more ease and meaning. The point is, solitude makes room for those whispers of desire to rise again. not the kind that shouts, but the kind that gently taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, it's not too late." And let's talk about control. Not over everything, but over your time. After a lifetime of appointments, routines, and responsibilities, being alone allows you to set the rhythm of your days. You get to decide when to wake up, when to rest, what to eat, what to read, when to reflect. That kind of freedom may seem small, but it's incredibly empowering. And it reminds you that even now, your life is yours to shape. Solitude also has a way of strengthening your spiritual life, whatever that means for you. Whether it's prayer, meditation, walking in nature, or just sitting quietly with your thoughts, time alone opens the door to something deeper. You begin to feel connected, not just to yourself, but to something beyond yourself. And that connection brings comfort, purpose, and peace in a way that no conversation or social event ever could. Sometimes people fear solitude because they confuse it with loneliness, but they are not the same. Loneliness is the pain of not having people. Solitude is the gift of being enough with yourself. When you embrace solitude, you're not giving up on life. You're turning toward it, more fully, more honestly, and more lovingly than ever before. And the beautiful part? The more you enjoy your own company, the more others enjoy being around you too. You become centered, calm, and confident, a quiet light that people naturally feel drawn to. You stop chasing approval, and instead, you radiate peace. It's clear that solitude after 70 isn't something to fear. It's something to welcome. It's not about shutting the world out. It's about opening yourself up to the parts of life that truly nourish you. Peace, clarity, freedom, and maybe for the first time in a long time, joy that doesn't rely on anyone else. Because here's the truth. You've spent most of your life showing up for others. You've carried burdens, solved problems, made sacrifices, and put others first more times than you can count. But now this chapter is different. Now you get to show up for yourself. You get to create a life that's quiet if you want it to be, creative if that's what you crave, spiritual if that's what brings you peace. This is your time. And you don't need anyone's permission to live it your way. In solitude, you begin to trust yourself again. You start making decisions, not out of fear or habit, but from a place of deep knowing. You start to feel whole, not because everything is perfect, but because you've made peace with the imperfections. That kind of contentment is rare and powerful, and it doesn't come from the outside. It grows within you, quietly, patiently, in the stillness of being alone. If you've ever felt like life was winding down, let this be your reminder. It's not over. It's shifting. It's softening. It's deepening. There is still music to listen to, books to read, thoughts to think, sunsets to watch, and love to feel. Even if that love is simply for yourself, your memories, and the miracle of still being here. So, take that walk by yourself. Sit in the garden without a phone. Cook a meal just for you. Talk to yourself kindly. Let the silence speak. Let it remind you that you are still alive, not just surviving, but living. And that, in itself, is something to be proud of. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If any of this spoke to your heart, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Let others know they're not alone in finding strength through solitude. And if this message gave you a little more peace today, please like the video and subscribe, because this channel is here for you. Here's to your health, your happiness, and the quiet power of embracing who you are, fully, completely, and beautifully after 70.